April 18, 1943, 2:11 a.m. Bremen, Germany. The sirens begin their scream too late. Searchlights claw upward through the clouds, slicing the darkness into trembling white columns. Anti-aircraft guns follow seconds later, black bursts blooming in the sky like violent flowers. The ground shakes. Windows rattle. Somewhere below, civilians press themselves against cellar walls, counting the seconds between explosions. And above it all, the bombers. Hundreds of them. B-24 Liberators, their silver bellies catching brief flashes of flak, flying so high the air itself seems to thin and crack around them. Engines roar in unison, not one or two aircraft, not a squadron, but a moving city of aluminum and fire. A German radar officer stares at his scope, frozen. The screen is full. Too full. He rubs his eyes, adjusts the dial, checks the power again. Still full. There are more aircraft than the night should be able to hold. For months, the Luftwaffe had believed this kind of raid was impossible. American industry simply couldn't build bombers fast enough. Not after training losses. Not after shipping delays. Not while fighting a war across two oceans. Yet here they are. Again. And tomorrow, intelligence says there will be more. Far across the Atlantic, thousands of miles from flak, fire, and falling cities, a single factory continues to glow through the Michigan night. Willow Run. And inside it walks a civilian most Germans will never hear about. A man with no uniform, no medals, no rank, but with an idea powerful enough to bury the Third Reich beneath raw production. His name is Charles Sorensen. And at this moment, the war is beginning to turn, not on a battlefield, but on a factory floor. The problem begins with noise. Not explosions, not gunfire. Confusion. In early 1942, Willow Run is chaos disguised as ambition. The factory stretches nearly a mile long, the largest industrial building on Earth, yet inside it, nothing works the way it should. Parts arrive late. Workers argue over blueprints. Wings don't fit fuselages. Engines sit waiting while paperwork crawls from desk to desk. A B-24 Liberator takes over a month to complete. Sometimes longer. Military inspectors pace the floor with crossed arms. Army Air Forces officers mutter under their breath. Washington wants miracles, and Willow Run is delivering delays. The Liberator itself doesn't help. It's complicated, temperamental, packed with miles of wiring, hydraulics, and aluminum skin that tolerates no mistakes, designed by engineers, not builders. Each aircraft is essentially handcrafted. And that is the problem. Because Germany isn't handcrafting its war. It's mass-producing destruction. In 1942, Luftwaffe bombers are still striking Britain. U-boats are tearing open Allied shipping lanes. Every week lost means thousands more dead. America doesn't need good bombers. It needs too many bombers to stop. And right now, Willow Run can't deliver them. That's when Henry Ford makes a call and brings in a man who terrifies engineers. Charles Sorensen. They call him Cast Iron Charlie. Not because he's cruel. Because once he decides how something will be built, it will be built that way. No debate. No delay. Sorensen walks into Willow Run wearing a suit, not a uniform. He doesn't salute. He doesn't ask permission. He walks the factory floor slowly, hands behind his back, eyes scanning everything. He stops beside a half-finished Liberator, runs his hand along the fuselage. Then he asks a simple question. Why is this airplane standing still? No one answers. Because everyone knows the truth. The bomber isn't waiting on metal or manpower. It's waiting on process. And Sorensen despises process that wastes time. At Ford, he helped turn automobiles into something radical, objects that moved toward completion instead of waiting for workers to come to them. The assembly line. Now the military has brought him something sacred. An airplane. Officers warn him quietly. Aircraft aren't cars. Too delicate. Too precise. Too dangerous to rush. Sorensen listens. Then he shakes his head. If it can be built, he says, it can be built in motion. That sentence will change the war. Because what Sorensen sees isn't a bomber. He sees thousands of tasks performed in the wrong order. He sees workers walking miles per day to fetch parts. He sees skilled technicians tightening the same bolts over and over on different aircraft. He sees time bleeding away. So he does something that horrifies traditional aviation engineers. He breaks the B-24 apart. Not physically, conceptually. The aircraft becomes stations. Wings here. Fuselage sections there. Electrical systems pre-assembled. Hydraulics tested before installation. Nothing moves backward. Nothing waits. The airplane will move forward always. Like a river of aluminum. Military officials panic. What if something goes wrong? What if a mistake is repeated across hundreds of aircraft? Sorensen's reply is cold. Then we fix it once, not 1,000 times. He reorganizes the building overnight. Painted lines appear on the floor. Conveyors begin rolling. Crates of identical parts replace custom-fitted pieces. And then comes the boldest order of all. Every Liberator will be built exactly the same. No individual quirks. No custom solutions. Standardization, the enemy of artistry, becomes the weapon of survival. At first, it's a disaster. Aircraft jam the line. Workers fall behind. Supervisors shout. One general reportedly storms out, convinced the experiment has failed. But Sorensen doesn't stop the line. He slows it, then speeds it again. Each day, problems vanish. Stations learn their single task until it becomes muscle memory. Rivets snap in place faster. Wiring harnesses click together like machinery instead of puzzles. Something begins to happen inside Willow Run. The factory starts to breathe. And then one morning, a Liberator rolls off the line. Fully assembled. Engines mounted. Paint dry. Another follows behind it. Then another. By summer of 1943, the impossible becomes routine. One bomber every 63 minutes. Every hour, an aircraft capable of crossing oceans and leveling cities. Every hour, another nail in the Luftwaffe's coffin. But across the Atlantic, German intelligence officers are staring at their reports in disbelief. Losses are rising. Raids are growing larger. And American bomber strength, somehow, is increasing faster than they can shoot it down. They don't know it yet. But the sky is about to become unwinnable. And Willow Run is just getting started. The lights at Willow Run never go dark. At 3:40 a.m., when most of Michigan sleeps beneath frost-covered roofs, the factory hums like a living thing. Conveyors roll forward with a low metallic growl. Rivet guns snap in sharp, rhythmic bursts. The smell of oil, hot aluminum. And sweat hangs thick in the air. Shift change happens without silence. One wave of workers steps aside, another steps in. The line keeps moving. It does not care who is tired. It does not wait. A B-24 fuselage glides forward on its steel cradle, passing from station to station like a patient on an operating table. One team installs wiring. Another locks in oxygen lines. A third bolts down armor plating around the cockpit. Each worker knows only their task. And that is the point. Charles Sorensen stands above the floor on a narrow catwalk, watching everything. Clipboard tucked under his arm, tie loosened, eyes sharp. He times operations with a pocket watch. 30 seconds too slow. 10 seconds lost here. 5 steps wasted there. To Sorensen, time is not abstract. Time is aircraft. And aircraft are lives. The Army Air Forces had once insisted that every bomber be built like a masterpiece, inspected, adjusted, perfected individually. But war has no patience for masterpieces. War wants quantity. And quantity, when done right, becomes quality all its own. By late 1943, Willow Run is producing bombers faster than any factory in history. Yet the miracle comes at a cost. Workers collapse on benches during breaks. Hands bleed through gloves. Mistakes, small ones, still happen. A misrouted cable here. A faulty valve there. And when one error slips through, it can mean disaster in the sky. Thousands of miles away, a Liberator shudders mid-flight. An engine sputters. A crew chief curses. They make it home barely. The investigation traces the problem back to a single station on the line. Sorensen receives the report in silence. He does not shout. He does not assign blame. Instead, he shuts down one station for exactly 47 minutes. Redesigns the process. Retrains the workers. Restarts the line. The fix spreads instantly across every aircraft afterward. This is the power of standardization. One mistake corrected once, instead of killing crews 1,000 times. Slowly, skeptics begin to disappear. Even hardened pilots, men who trust only what they can touch, begin requesting Willow Run aircraft by name. They fly the same, one says, every time. Predictability becomes safety. And safety allows courage. In England, bomber bases swell. Hardstands multiply across muddy airfields. Liberators arrive daily, sometimes hourly, noses wrapped in canvas, propellers gleaming. Ground crews stop asking when replacements are coming. They ask where to park them. The 8th Air Force grows teeth. And Germany begins to feel it. In Berlin, Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring listens to briefing after briefing with growing fury. Losses mount. Fighter squadrons are stretched thin. Radar plots show formations that seem to regenerate overnight. How, he demands, do the Americans still have aircraft? No one answers. Because no one understands the scale. German factories are producing aircraft too, but each one requires skilled craftsmen, specialized plants, and time they no longer have. American bombers, by contrast, are rolling out like cartridges. And unlike tanks or artillery, they can strike anywhere. Oil refineries, ball-bearing plants, rail hubs, aircraft factories themselves. Each mission costs the Allies' men, hundreds of them. But Willow Run replaces the machines faster than the Luftwaffe can destroy them. Attrition begins to favor the side that can endure it. And endurance now belongs to American industry. Still, the true test comes not in numbers, but in winter. January 1944. The skis over Europe turn lethal. Cloud layers stack like walls, icing coats wings, engines choke, navigation becomes guesswork. Yet Bomber Command cannot pause. The invasion of France is coming. Air superiority must be won first. Losses spike brutally. Some days, dozens of bombers fail to return. Chairs sit empty at mess halls. Pilots stare at them without speaking. But even as the casualty lists grow, new aircraft keep arriving. Fresh crews climb aboard machines that smell of paint and oil. The line at Willow Run does not slow. Not for grief. Not for weather. Not for doubt. By now, the factory produces a Liberator every 55 minutes. then every 50. Sorensen refuses to celebrate. There is no finish line, he tells his managers, only tomorrow. And tomorrow always demands more. What none of them realize yet, not Sorensen, not the generals, not even the men flying into flak, is that Willow Run is about to cross a threshold. A point where production becomes overwhelming, where the enemy can no longer adapt, where the war's outcome begins to feel inevitable. Because soon, the bombers will stop arriving in squadrons. They will arrive in floods. And the skies over Europe will never be the same again. February 20th, 1944. Dawn over eastern England. The airfields are already awake. Frost crunches under boots as crews move between rows of bombers stretching into the mist. Engines cough to life one by one, a rising thunder that never fully stops. Propellers blur. Exhaust smoke crawls low across the ground. This is not a raid. It's an event. Operation Argument, what history will later call Big Week. The plan is brutal in its simplicity. Force the Luftwaffe into the air. Then destroy it. Wave after wave of American bombers lift off, climbing slowly into formation. B-17s and B-24s assemble in the sky until the horizon itself seems to fill with wings. From above, the formations look endless. From below, they blot out the sun. German radar stations light up in panic. Controllers issue scramble orders that overlap and collide. Fighter units launch without full fuel. Pilots barely finish strapping in. They rise to meet a force unlike anything air warfare has seen before. And behind that force, unseen, uncelebrated, stands Willow Run. Because this many aircraft cannot exist without replacement. Losses are expected, acceptable, calculated. Every mission planner knows how many bombers will be lost and how many more will be waiting tomorrow. That calculation terrifies the Germans. During Big Week, hundreds of Allied aircraft are damaged or destroyed. Yet every morning, new formations appear. Again, and again, and again. German pilots begin writing the same phrase in letters home. They never stop coming. By now, Willow Run is producing over 600 bombers per month. Each one identical. Each one interchangeable. Each one part of something larger than itself. For the first time in the war, industrial math favors the Allies decisively. Germany can still fight, but it cannot replace. Factories are bombed faster than they can be repaired. Skilled workers are killed or drafted. Fuel shortages ground fighters before they ever take off. Meanwhile, American production expands. Not just bombers, engines, trucks, ammunition, spare parts. A system feeding itself. Charles Sorensen rarely speaks to the press. When reporters visit Willow Run, he refuses posed photographs. He gestures toward the line instead. Take pictures of that, he says. Because he understands something few others do. The assembly line is now a battlefield. And it is winning. Yet the human cost never leaves the building. A telegram arrives one afternoon. A B-24 from the 445th Bomb Group has gone down over Belgium. All 10 crewmen killed. The serial number traces back to Willow Run. A supervisor brings the message to Sorensen. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then he folds the paper carefully and puts it into his pocket. Keep the line moving, he says quietly. Not out of coldness. Out of necessity. Stopping would not bring them back. Only finishing the war faster might save the next crew. By spring, something shifts in the air war. Escort fighters, P-51 Mustangs, now fly deep into Germany, protecting the bombers all the way to their targets. Luftwaffe losses spike catastrophically. Experienced German pilots vanish from the skies. New replacements arrive with barely 10 hours of flight time. They face bomber streams so dense that turning away becomes impossible. The numbers crush them. And for the first time, German commanders begin to speak a forbidden word. Unhaltbar. Unstoppable. All of it traces back to one truth. You cannot win a war of attrition against a nation that builds airplanes like automobiles. By mid-1944, Willow Run reaches its peak. One completed Liberator every 45 minutes. The plant employs more than 42,000 workers. Many are women. Many had never touched a tool before the war. Now they build aircraft that cross continents. A generation learns that war is not only fought by soldiers. It is fought by hands, by repetition, by endurance. And then quietly, the role of the B-24 begins to change. As Allied forces land in Normandy and push inland, bombers shift from strategic devastation to tactical support. They strike rail yards ahead of advancing armies. They isolate battlefields. They strangle retreat. The bombers that once prepared the invasion now help finish it. And still, Willow Run keeps producing. Even as victory becomes visible, the line does not slow. Because no one knows how long the war will last. Because optimism is dangerous. Because stopping early has killed men before. Then, in the spring of 1945, reports begin arriving faster than bombers ever did. German cities falling. Armies surrendering. Airfields abandoned. The Luftwaffe reduced to shadows. One morning, Sorensen stands on the catwalk and hears something unfamiliar. Silence. Not complete, but different. The urgency has changed. The war is ending. Soon, the line will stop for the first time in years. And when it does, the world will have learned something terrifying and extraordinary. That modern war is no longer decided only by generals or tactics, but by whether a nation can outbuild death itself. Yet the final reckoning has not come, because history will ask one last question. Was Willow Run merely a factory? Or the moment warfare changed forever? May 8, 1945. Willow Run, Michigan. The whistle sounds at 11:01 a.m. Not the sharp command that begins a shift. Not the warning that something has gone wrong. This one is long, unbroken, different. Across the factory floor, hands pause mid-motion. Rivet guns fall silent. Conveyors grind to a halt for the first time in years. The great moving river of aluminum stops breathing. Someone shouts the words before the announcement can finish traveling through the building. The war over. For a moment, no one reacts. Then slowly, helmets come off. Goggles lift. Workers look at one another as if waking from a dream that lasted 4 years. Some cheer. Some cry. Some simply sit down where they stand. Charles Sorensen is not on the catwalk. He is in a small office near the edge of the plant, staring at a wall covered in production charts. Lines climb month by month, steeper, higher, impossible. 8,685 B-24 Liberators. That is the final number. More than half of all Liberators ever built, born inside this single building. A factory longer than the distance, many men flew before being shot down. Outside, church bells begin ringing. Cars honk on distant roads. America celebrates. But inside Willow Run, the sound feels muted. Because victory has weight. Every bomber that rolled off the line carried 10 men. Some returned. Many did not. Sorensen walks back onto the floor. Workers recognize him instantly. The man who pushed them, argued with them, demanded more even when they had nothing left. Some expect a speech. He doesn't give one. He simply nods. "Good work," he says. 2 words. Then he turns and walks away. In the years that follow, the world changes fast. The factory is converted, the bombers disappear, runways grow quiet. But the lesson of Willow Run does not fade. Military planners study it obsessively. So do industrialists. So do future enemies. Because the war revealed something irreversible. The next global conflict would not be won by brilliance alone, or courage alone, or even technology alone. It would be won by systems, by logistics, by the ability to turn raw material into overwhelming force, faster than the enemy can respond. The age of industrialized warfare had arrived fully formed. And Charles Sorensen, a civilian with a stopwatch and a stubborn belief in motion, helped usher it in. The Luftwaffe never truly recovered from what Willow Run unleashed. Not because American bombers were invincible, but because there were always more of them. Waiting, rolling forward, replacing the fallen before the smoke cleared. Years later, veterans would say something quietly profound. They never remembered the serial numbers of their aircraft. They remembered the sound, the engines starting together, the sense that somewhere far away, someone had built this machine for them, piece by piece, believing they would come home. That belief carried weight. That belief crossed oceans. And in the end, it helped end the deadliest war in human history. Not with a single moment, but with one aircraft. Every hour,